On a remote island in the Pacific, there was a place the world used to throw people away. If you caught a certain disease, soldiers came, took you from your family, and shipped you to a peninsula sealed off by towering cliffs and open sea. No cure, no way home, no law. You were sent there to disappear. For years, thousands did. And then one young priest asked to be sent there too, knowing he would never come back. Some people change the world, and the world never learns their name. This is without whom. His name was Joseph, a farmer's son from a small village in Belgium, born in 1840, the youngest of a large family. He was big, strong, and restless, more comfortable swinging an axe than sitting still. When his older brother, training to be a missionary, fell ill and could not sail, Joseph begged to take his place. He boarded a ship for the Hawaiian Islands. He had already taken a new name when he joined the order: Damien. He arrived in Honolulu as a young man and was ordained a priest. For nearly 10 years he served on the islands, riding across rough country to tiny chapels, building churches with his own hands. He was happy in the work. But across the water, on the island of Molokai, something terrible was happening. Something the rest of Hawaii preferred not to look at. Leprosy had reached the islands, and the government was terrified, so it made a law. Anyone found with the disease was arrested, torn from their home, and exiled to a single peninsula on Molokai, walled off from the rest of the island by cliffs half a mile high. They were left there with almost nothing. It was meant to be a grave for the living. What grew up there was a nightmare. With no real authority and no hope, the settlement fell into despair. The sick lay in filthy huts. The strong preyed on the weak. Children wandered with no one left to care for them. The dying were rolled into shallow graves. People said openly that in this place there was no law. The world had decided these people were already dead and simply waited for their bodies to agree. Damien's bishop did not want to order any priest into that place because it was a death sentence, so he asked for volunteers. Damien raised his hand. In 1873, at 33 years old, he stepped off a boat onto that peninsula, carrying almost nothing but his faith. He was the first priest to come. And unlike the officials who visited and fled, he made a decision that stunned everyone. He would stay. Forever. What he did next was simple and revolutionary. He treated them as human beings. He sat in their huts. He ate from the same bowl. He dressed the sores the doctors would not touch with his own bare hands. He bandaged feet, cleaned wounds, and held people no one else would come near. To a people told they were untouchable, one man refused to flinch. Then he went to work rebuilding their world. He hauled lumber and raised proper houses. He built a system to bring them clean water. He planted gardens, organized farms, and started schools for the children. He taught them to sing again. Slowly, a dumping ground for the dying became something almost unthinkable in that place. A community, a town with dignity. He also became their undertaker. With his own hands, he built hundreds of coffins and dug hundreds of graves, because he was determined that every person who died there would be buried with respect and not dumped in the dirt. He gave them in death the one thing the world had stolen from them in life: the simple dignity of being mourned, of having mattered. For all of this, he asked for almost nothing. He wrote letters begging the outside world for medicine, supplies, and help, and mostly he was ignored. The authorities found him difficult, stubborn, a troublemaker who would not stay quiet about how his people were being abandoned. But he had something money could not buy. He had stopped being their visitor. He had become one of them. And there was a price for that closeness, one he had always known he might pay. The disease did not care that he was a priest. Year after year among the sick, sharing their food and their wounds, the danger crept closer. Then one evening, lowering his foot into scalding water, he felt nothing at all. No pain, no heat. He understood at once what it meant. One Sunday soon after, he climbed to the front of his little church to preach. For years he had begun his sermons with the words, "My brethren." This time he started differently. He looked out at the faces of the sick, the people he had given his life to, and he said two words that told them everything. We lepers. He had joined them completely now, not just in life, but in death. He did not slow down. If anything, he worked harder, racing the disease that was eating his body. He kept building, kept nursing, kept burying the dead, even as his own hands began to fail him. He knew his time was short, and he was desperate to finish as much as he could before it ran out. He had never asked to be rescued. He had only ever asked for help to serve. And at last, drawn by the story spreading beyond the island, help began to arrive. A brave nun and her sisters came to nurse the sick and would carry on his work for decades. A former soldier came and stayed to labor beside him. The man who had chosen to be alone among the outcasts had, by his example, shamed a forgetful world into finally looking and finally caring. But for Damien, it came too late. The disease took his body piece by piece, until in the spring of 1889, after 16 years on that peninsula, he died there, among his people, at just 49 years old. He was buried on the island he had refused to leave, beneath the same kind of cross he had planted over so many of their graves. And here, the story turns cruel. Soon after his death, a respected clergyman who had never done such work wrote a poisonous letter. He called Damien a coarse, dirty man and sneered that he had brought the disease on himself through his own sins. It was a lie, aimed at a man who had given everything, and it threatened to bury his name under filth. Then an unexpected champion appeared. The famous novelist Robert Louis Stevenson had visited the settlement and seen Damien's work with his own eyes. Enraged, he wrote a blistering open letter defending the dead priest and paid to publish it himself. His words tore the slander apart and carried Damien's true story to the world. The lie died. The truth did not. Because of one stubborn priest, the world could no longer pretend the outcasts on that peninsula were not human. He had proven, with his own body, that they were worth loving, worth healing, and worth dying for. The way the sick and the shunned were seen had been changed forever, by a man who simply refused to look away. Long after his death, the world caught up to what his people had always known. He was declared blessed, and then, in 2009, he was made a saint, honored as the patron of the outcast and the gravely ill. Decades after he was buried, a piece of him was carried back to the very grave on that peninsula where it all began. His statue now stands in the capital of the United States, and the farmer's son who chose exile is remembered as one of the great souls of his age. We remember the saints in stained glass and marble. But Damien was just a man who made a choice, again and again, to sit with the people everyone else had thrown away. He did not cure their disease. He cured their loneliness. And he proved that no one is ever truly untouchable. The world you live in was built by people you have never heard of. And now you know one more name: Father Damien. Like and subscribe and stick around, because the textbooks left a lot out. Thanks for watching.